Welcome to Making the Brand, the podcast where marketing and pop culture collide. I'm your host, Brianne Fleming. I can't wait to chat about brands, boy bands, and everything in between. Because brands who have a pulse on pop culture can create adoring fans of their own. Hey everyone, welcome back to the Making the Brand podcast. It's been a while since I've interviewed someone on this show, but today's guest I thought was so interesting and she inspired me to pick this back up again. So today we have Jess Sanfilippo. She is the founder of Roadie Social. It is a brand new concept she's working on, and this might be one of the first places you get to hear about it, but it's going to be huge because Jess is behind it and she doesn't do anything small. So Jess, welcome to the show.
Oh my gosh, that was like such a glowing introduction. I'm like, oh, I got like the chills, which is my go-to sign that like something feels good. Yeah, thank you for having me. I'm so excited to chat with you about this. And you're totally right. It's like, it's new, it's exciting. I don't go small. And you are like making the brand is the exclusive first interview, really.
Ooh, good to know. Good to know. And what a big honor to have you here. And we, this is going to be like world tour energy is what we're manifesting here. With
100%. This is a full barricade at your super fan show moment. Absolutely.
All right. Well, I would love for you to just introduce yourself and share a bit of your background. And then I have a fun little icebreaker question for you. But first, who is Jess Sanfilippo? Tell us.
Oh, who am I? That's a question I ask myself every day.
I know. We wake up every morning. It's
and
like,
I go, yeah, right. It's like you wipe the crusties from the corners and you go, who are you? Into the mirror. I'm Jess. I'm the founder of Roadie Social, like Brianne mentioned, which is I know I have a feeling we'll get into this more, but like 10,000 foot view is a marketing and community support partner for touring artists. Personally, I have an 18-year background in marketing. I've worked in probably every industry you can think of, right? I started in radio. I worked in film, comedy, events, conferences, tech, D2C, like you name it, I've probably done it in some capacity. And so I'm sort of an enigma of experience when it comes to marketing, but a lot of it, like I said, radio was the first. So that's kind of, that experience shaped a lot of how I approached like strategies and tactics and energy and interest in applying those things. So we'll dig into that more later, but that's kind of like me in a nutshell. And that's a lot of person to put in a nutshell.
Yes, but you did it beautifully. So, I mean, coming from a radio background first, so music was kind of your first love. Is that how we're getting rounded all the way back full circle to Roadie Social, you think?
We are. Our through line is the tempo, the melody. That's so true.
Yes. I love that. I say that all the time. It's like if I had just stopped for a moment and reflected on what were those first things that I loved that really shaped me? And, I'm, boy band fangirl, and I credit Tiger Beat for like making me interested in marketing. And it's like, it's those things we did growing up, listening to music, those moments we had in our room with our boombox and the radio, like they change us, don't they?
Oh, it's so formative. It's wild. It is absolutely wild.
So let's continue rewinding the clock a little bit here. I want to know what your first concert was.
Okay, this is so funny because anyone who knows me like modern day Jess is always like, I'm sorry when I tell this story. So because it feels very like it makes sense and it doesn't. So I'm going to lead the witness, I guess. And then now I will answer. So my first ever concert was the inaugural Ozfest, which wasn't a tour. So this was 1996, Phoenix, Desert Sky Pavilion. I was 10 years old. Wow. Was a huge Black Sabbath fan. My parents, we grew up, our house always had metal or, hair bands, rock, like constantly playing. And so yeah, I was like 2 rows from the lawn at an outdoor venue in Phoenix, learning what weed was from the contact high of the lawn going, attendees. And yeah, it was crazy because that was the first year. I don't know if anyone knows the backstory, but quick TLDR, Sharon Osbourne tried to get Ozzy Osbourne onto the Lollapalooza lineup, and they said absolutely not. This was when he was solo, and so he was like, "Screw it, I'll do my own." And so he did Ozfest, but he just did it the first year in 2 cities. One of them was Phoenix. The other one was like a San Bernardino suburb called Boulder in California. And so it's kind of wild, like as I grew up, being like reflective on that and going, oh my gosh, I was kind of there for an iconic like moment. Like that franchise is massive.
Yeah.
Now, after all these years. And so I was just like, whoa, okay, cool. Like I was there in my big bright red 98 KUPD promo t-shirt and bike shorts, which is still, partly my uniform today as a 35-year-old woman. So yeah, but that was my first ever concert, was an Ozzy Osbourne and friends that are just like Ozzy at Ozfest. Crazy.
Look at that. So it was a first for you and a first for them in a way.
Yeah, exactly. We shared a first. I haven't really ever thought of it that way, but we have a bond we don't even know we share.
Yes, connected at the heart now forever with Black Sabbath. Okay, so what does modern day Jess love? I know you're a big Harry Styles fan.
It's true.
Is he your number one?
Interestingly enough, he's not.
Okay. I'm intrigued.
Like, yeah, like no offense, H, but so it's always so hard when people are like, who's your number one? Like, who's your number one musician? Because it changes, constantly changes. But I guess if I had to say, there was not a number one, but like tied for number one, would be Bob Dylan and Elliott Smith.
Okay.
Yeah.
Ooh,
right.
Quite the lyricist.
Quite the lyricist. Yes. Very poetic of me. Their music, individually had like such a significant impact during like 2 really, really big seasons of my life. And even to the point, they're my son's namesake. My son's name is Dylan Elliott, and he's named after them.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. And, staying in this time machine, way back in the day, MySpace, kids, was a platform. So, my MySpace username, I don't know if like, it was kind of Tumblr-esque, like your username was like a song lyric, right?
Yes.
An emo.
Such an era.
And as I flicked my sideswept bangs away from my eyes, my username was "You'll Be Beautiful Confusion" from his Independence Day song off of the XO record. So it's kind of like weird because it's been so long, like late 90s to now. And my son's 14 now, and I still literally listened to the record like 2 weeks ago because his birthday was 2 weeks ago. So.
Oh, see, that is poetic. So now let's chat about Roadie Social, your new endeavor here. What is it exactly, and how did you get the idea to start it?
Yeah. So, like I mentioned earlier, it's it's really an umbrella right now, and I'm still refining, but as kind of a whole, it's like a marketing and community support partner for touring artists. And I want to start it with musicians, but like, who knows what that could expand to? There are so many different fandoms. But again, music is my passion. And so music is my passion. It sounded so poetic. And so I was like, let's start there. And really she's like 21 days old. So to be fair, like she's very new to the world. She still has that newborn baby smell. I just kind of cuddle her and drink her in every day. And luckily she sleeps through the night, so I'm not like up crazy, like thinking about her. But I really kind of consider a lot of the offerings that I'm building for this like initial V1 as like the future of fandoms, right?
Mm-hmm.
Everything from like building marketing strategies for tour that's where the cornerstone is really being like that artist fan relationship, and then all the way to bridging it into new technologies like blockchain ticketing is like a massive buzz that's happening
Yeah.
in the industry. And right now it's kind of being introduced in sort of upper echelon, super VIP kinds of ways, like we saw with like the Super Bowl and Coachella's doing their thing and stuff. But, a broader, more like universally adopted ticketing that's powered by new technology to like control things like primary and secondary ticket markets and all of that sort of stuff is what I'm actively building while also like nurturing that that familiar relationship between like the fan and the artist.
I love that. Do you know if anything like this really exists? Like, how are artists currently marketing their tours? Is it a pretty disjointed effort with like all these different people involved? Like, it seems like you're going to be a one-stop shop, and I feel like that's going to be such a relief for artists versus like trying to put together all of this tour promo.
Yeah, I mean, it's really, really crazy. So kind of how I approached it was, well, I guess I should tell like a little, this kind of a fun story. I love to tell this part of it. So like I mentioned earlier, I started my career in radio, but I left it 14 years ago. Right. So I left it after I had my son and I was like, oh, I was like in a really fortunate position. I had the opportunity to stay home with him full time. And so I made that choice. And when I was in radio, I was doing programming, production, and promotion. So like the 3 Ps of radio, which meant I was interacting really regularly for artists on air and doing interview prep for my on-air talent, scheduling my on-air, jocks, helping them create and develop like segments for their time blocks, and really had an incredible mentor in my boss, Tim. And I was so green and I was so new to it. I literally got the gig as an unpaid intern. And then they were like, yeah, you have something here, so we're hiring you.
Wow.
It was crazy. And so cool. But he always pointed out some strengths that I just didn't have the sight to like, I just couldn't see them yet. Right.
Right.
And he was like, you have a knack. And what I did was I had this knack and I built a reputation of being like the person that everyone felt safe and seen and calm around. And that was artists, agents, A&R guys, fans, when we did meet and greets, all of that. So I was like, oh shit, I have something here, right? Oh, can I swear?
You absolutely can.
Okay, I was just like, I'm typically a sailor. So I'm trying to be a little bit reserved, but I'll say a shit.
That is A-okay here. Go for it.
Perfect. We're our whole selves when we were making the brand.
Absolutely.
So, it was when I left to, be a full-time mom, which you're always a full-time mom. Everything else is like a side hustle when you have a kid. I knew I would go back, but I didn't know how or when. And fast forward to 7 years later, I'm sitting in my home office in LA, my kids at school. I'd probably watched Almost Famous recently because for some reason that was on loop when I lived in LA, which now looking back makes sense.
Yes.
It is the land of Almost Famous. And I thought, there's the whole Penny Lane and the Band-Aid stuff. And I was like, I had always kind of hated that like groupie Band-Aid, like label and sort of ecosystem of stuff. And I was like, like bands just really like fans of bands that like follow them around. They're really more like road crew than they are just like, you know, in it for the hookup or the whatever, whatever stereotypes we're going to like put on, especially female fans with, artists or bands. And so I was like, ooh, I just had this like lightning in a bottle moment, Roadie Social. So I did what anyone who grew up in the late 90s and early 2000s did, is you think of it, you buy the domain, you get the social handles, you get the email address. And I literally have sat on it for the past 7 years.
Oh my gosh.
So
I had no idea.
Yeah. Yeah. So I did that full court press of like the name something that's still TBD.
Yes.
Didn't give it much thought for like a decade, save for like when the GoDaddy renewal notification would come up and I'd be like, oh yeah, I should probably do something with this. It still hits,
Yes.
And so, fast forward again to like the last couple of years, and I just saw such a wild explosion of like artist brand development.
Yeah.
In this pandemic, the last few years, where we have artists like Olivia Rodrigo, who could easily sell out an arena, but has never toured before. So she's doing like small theaters. Yeah. And her fans are like, what the actual F? Because more of us want to see her.
Yeah, she's not even coming to Florida, which I'm upset about. So I get it. Go on.
She goes, so yes, thank you for ripping that wound open.
Yes.
But we'll get you on a plane and you'll go see her somewhere.
True. I can always do that.
But, we were all stuck at home and what were we doing more than, swiping, scrolling our lives away on TikTok and stuff.
Yeah.
And, I really started to see that artist fan relationship morphing into this like beautiful trust exchange online.
Yeah.
And then when tours started to hit the road again in like fall, winter of last year, and the content started flooding social media, like TikTok, Instagram, Reddit was a fascinating corner of the internet that when artists were on tour or like stopped some of their tours in like the spring, it was crazy the volume of tour related content and conversation that started to happen on these channels. And I just had this light bulb moment. I was like, this is it. This is a different thing when it comes to concert experiences, right? Like from like front of house to back of house, like everything feels really new, and really familiar, but also like deeper and closer.
Yes.
And so I wanted to lean into that, like that depth and that bond between the stage and the stand and like have that be something that is nurtured because I'm very studious. I'm a deep researcher before I do anything. 7 years sitting on a campus game.
But the timing is perfect now.
It's crazy how perfect it is. You're absolutely right. And so in that studiousness of myself and just my tendency, I was like, before I formulate any offerings, because I can look at this and I can be like, oh, this is what the industry needs. This is what artists need. This is what fans want, right? Mm-hmm. And artists want too, right? Let's not just make it a need-want transaction. And so I was like, I need to go be in the room where the magic happens. Be with the people who make the decisions, who are living, breathing, this world and have for decades. And so I went to Polestar Live, which is it's an event for the global touring industry, brings together artists, booking agents, promoters, concert support service, like everyone. And I just sat in the room because I looked at the schedule of kind of like, hey, we don't know who's speaking yet, but these are the topics we're going to cover. And so much of it was like, we don't know where to go because it's new and different. And we've maybe been doing it for 40, 50 years. Like some of the people sitting on that stage have been booking, international territories for tours. And they're like, we just don't know how to do this now. So different, from a safety and precaution standpoint.
True.
logistical standpoint. And, I did that because I have been out of this. I got a peek into that world when I was in radio. But again, that was like 14, 15 years ago. And things changed real fast. Even though the music industry is typically the slowest on the uptake for like new stuff. They like the way things work. I wanted to walk into the China shop, but I didn't want to be the bull and just start breaking shit that maybe wasn't broken.
Yeah.
And so I was like, what are they interested in? Where are the gaps? And then what can I bring, with this idea? Does the idea that I have in my mind from what I'm, perceiving as an outsider vibe with what, they're kind of looking at and exploring and stuff like that. And it turns out a lot of what I was thinking is what they're trying to figure out. So,
oh my gosh. So you just went to Polestar Live just as an individual, like you didn't even really have anything up and running. You're just like, I need to go to this and immerse myself with these professionals and listen and just kind of proof of concept a little bit.
Yeah, exactly.
Oh my gosh.
I just was like, this is, and it's something that for my whole career, anytime I've made like an industry, like entry decision or anything like that, I always encourage people to literally invest with whatever resources you have, time, money, energy, whatever it is, into learning before you try to get bullish, right?
Yeah.
Learn whatever you can. Cause I feel like that to me is, one of the most, powerful and impactful investments I can make as like a startup investment for what I'm doing is to be like, am just really, really, truly assessing, qualitatively, like I have access to like metrics for, stuff and ticket sales and all that, drop counts, all that kind of stuff. But also I'm such a human-centered marketer and have been for my entire career that there's something different when you hear the anecdotes in the room. You feel the energy, you see
the faces.
You see the faces, right, of the people who, especially in the touring industry, if you're not in the band or, on the stage, no one knows who you are. Yeah. They're literally the glue, that makes the machine run. So, that was just really important to me. And then I sat in that ballroom in Beverly Hills for a week. And to your point before, having nothing to offer, I didn't have business cards. I decided to actually put my website up the second day of the conference.
Oh my gosh. You like went back to your hotel room and
yeah. And so after that day that there was an awards show that night, and after the award show, I was like, well, I could either stay up and hang out and feel like garbage tomorrow because we're going to enjoy, the open bar.
Yes.
Or I could go upstairs and I could apply what I've consumed and, be really primed for, networking when everyone is, kind of more in that zone.
Yeah. Wow. That was a worthwhile trade-off, I would say.
Yes, I would say that choice panned out quite well for me.
Yes.
So, yeah.
Oh my gosh. So like, what a great way just to, like I said, immerse yourself with all of those people and just get involved and kick everything off. That's awesome. And like we were saying before, I mean, the timing, it's a period right now where everyone is reevaluating touring and experiences because now that they're back, they are so much more meaningful. And I think as the fans and as the artists and as the people behind the tours, like we have this renewed appreciation for them and the connection that we're all starving for right now. So, wow, the stars really aligned 7 years later for you.
They really did. Yeah. I mean, that demand to, go and be in a room with strangers where like, it doesn't matter, right? I feel like we've had this will not get political, but like there's been such contentious divide.
Yes.
The past few years, I going back to Harry Styles, I committed to one tour stop in Tacoma last November, and ended up on a 4-show, 5-day trip. I just extended it. And, you know, kind of followed it along for a few days. And it was really, really remarkable and reassuring to stand in arenas with 12, 17,000 other people.
Mm-hmm.
And we were all there for a collective joy experience, right? There was nothing that made a difference besides that 90 minutes in the room.
Yes.
Of just like pure unadulterated joy. So
yes.
So that was, you know, for me, something that I felt so many times. I worked in the world. I produced a music festival when I was in Phoenix. So it's like, I have been to hundreds and hundreds of shows, if not thousands. I don't know.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
And so I know that feeling, just like that general feeling, but it's new now. It's new and it's fresh and it's exciting. Like, even though I'd been to so many shows, I still felt like each one of those 4 shows I went to in 5 days was the first concert I had ever gone to.
Yes.
And so that there's like something really, really magical there.
Yeah. We are so long overdue for these experiences. Yes. And to feel this joy again. Like, I don't blame you for going to 4 or 5 shows and just kind of riding it out after this drought that we've been in with concerts. So that's awesome.
Yeah.
So I want to speak to just some of the fears and maybe the risks that went through your mind when thinking about starting this. And, you know, starting a business is very scary. There are a lot of unknowns, and maybe we can touch on just some of the things that you've gone through that maybe other people can relate to, and just how you've pushed through some of those fears or doubts that you may have been having this whole time.
Yeah. I mean, the biggest fear that I had in starting this was that I was going to be a snot-faced new kid that thought they knew stuff or perceived that way.
Yeah.
And so
a new kid on the block,
an NKOTB. And I was like, I do have the right stuff, but we'll get there. So, you know, that was a big fear. And I think that's what motivated me to approach developing it and launching it the way that I did, where I was, hey, I'm coming to be a fly on the wall. I'm not coming in to like break the china. Right.
Right.
And, you know, inherently there's tons of risks with starting a new company or a business. This is my second business I've started. And so, you know, my previous one was a marketing agency and was really what kind of gave me that breadth of industry, you know, different industry experiences in marketing. And, you know, I left a cushy, like great work culture at the beginning of February to pursue this full time. And I knew that was what I needed to do. I spent like 2 months figuring it out. So my partner jokes that, and someday I know I'll tell him this story, but my partner jokes that Harry Styles broke me because it really was, you know, I had, again, was in a fortunate enough position to be, you know, barricade at 2 of the shows and really close in the pit for the other 2. And so I got to not only watch, and I bookended with like open pit, and then like my middle shows were like barricade, like end of stage catwalk. So I was like watching the crew again. And I'm glad I at least took some videos, and thanks again to TikTok and everyone who like posts content from concerts. Cause like, if there was any show I blacked out at, it was those 2. Because I was paying so much attention to the crew. And it took me back to when I was, you know, working shows in Phoenix or producing the festival I produced in Phoenix, to stand side stage and watch those glue people in the machine doing like phenomenal things, and making everything that the fans in that room were experiencing and the artist was experiencing on stage feel effortless and seamless. And so I don't know where I was going. Oh, so I was like, anyway, so I came back from that, and that was really kind of when things started to like click for me. Like I was like, I think that there's something, I know there's something new and different in the energy of going to a concert and concert going, and how do I fit into this? And then I really do think when I came home after I slept for 19 hours, because you don't sleep. You don't sleep when you impromptu take 5 days on a concert tour spontaneously.
Yeah.
And also launch a product in the meantime. Just like no big deal. Just normal like don't thing. Stack too much on your plate, Jess. But I managed to do both of them, which was also a signal to me that I was like, okay, this feels scarier than it is. But if you can do two really big things, one, you're filling your like personal cup, to the point it's overflowing. And also you're like meeting the moment for these really, really big milestones for the company you're currently at. If you can do both of those together, you can do this full-time, full-time focused. So, that was like a validator for me. Yeah. And so I came home and I, got through our holiday shopping season, and I just said, hey, I need to take, I don't know how long, but I need to take some time to focus on my mental, spiritual, and physical health, right? Like I was like, I'm burnt out. I'm going too hard. Like, what do I want to be doing? And 2 months later, I made the call, and I was like, this is what I need to be doing. Yeah. I sit here and I think about it, and I spend the time working through why Harry Styles broke me, with therapists and professionals. It as time went on, it just became more and more clear and defined. I just had so much more clarity around, this is what you're supposed to do. You're where you're at when you're supposed to be there, and you're about to build the experience you're meant to have. So
I think Harry Styles inspired you.
He did.
But I think it's so interesting that these epiphanies and kind of realizations that you've had, a lot of them have stemmed from getting out there, like going to that event, going to these Harry Styles shows, and just kind of getting out into the world a little bit and away from our desks and just living a little and seeing what feels right and what comes to you. I think in this work from home world that we're all in right now, like a lot of times we are contemplating like what our next move is or what we're really hoping to do next. And I love that you took the time and created those experiences for yourself to get that clarity.
Yeah. I mean, I feel like we, being as stuck in one place as a lot of us have been, and staying put, we're consuming a lot, but we're not absorbing. You really get the opportunity to absorb inspiration and experience and the growth of self when you leave the four walls, right?
Yes.
And I'm a huge proponent of that. And, putting your physical self in the spaces and places that will inspire you to, do the task at hand, and also dream of things that you haven't even touched yet. Yeah. So
it's just beginning. So we've
only just begun, as the Carpenters say.
Just begun. Yes. Big fan.
Yes.
So let's get into more of the specifics of Roadie Social and how this is going to work. I'm sure you've thought about it a lot. So how will the services work? Are you going to be heading out on tour with a lot of these artists, which sounds pretty fun, but also could be exhausting? Or is it more about equipping the artist team? Like, or maybe it's a little bit of both. How are you envisioning the services and how those will work?
Yeah, I mean, it's a little of column A and a little column B. Mostly we're hanging out in column A at the moment. I think that this is, and I've been fortunate enough to have conversations with some pretty major stakeholders in the agent and artist space to get intel from them on like what what is your interest in these sort of innovative approaches to activating fans. How does the ecosystem work now? And like we talked about earlier, it's so disjointed. They're like, oh well, we hire a freelancer. One agent says we hire a freelance on the road kind of marketer.
Yeah.
From tour to tour. Mm-hmm. Right. And then we put it all in, like Live Nation as a promoter, like they just handle end to end all the marketing and whatever happens on the road and stuff. Or it's our full-time social team person for this artist that, gets the content from the photographer from the road and like, posts it from their apartment in LA or whatever.
Yeah.
So it's kind of interesting. And so for me, I think that there's such a really, really untapped power. There are so many fan accounts. And going back to Tiger Beat also earlier, I cannot tell you the number of times me and my friends in like middle school and high school were such nerds. And it was like a new issue of Tiger Beat and Teen Beat, right? There was also Teen Beat.
Yes. Good times.
Gosh, I feel like my walls were so plastered with these, posters. I would, but those were the top two. But like a new issue of that would come out, and we'd be like, "That's it, Friday sleepover. We're all going to so and so's house. Bring your issue. We're thumbing through it." And this was kind of that's where we read the rumors and we saw. And it was mostly like months and months after a tour had ended, when they were like, "Oh yeah, we finally like got these to print for whatever." And you're like, oh, you're reminiscing. And there's such these fan accounts now that are doing and creating that like excitement in real time. That I'm like, these are, catalysts for from the artist side. Not free promo. I mean, right now they're doing it free promotion, but like making that relationship official to, equip these super fans that, really are going from, hey, like I'm going to a concert to no, this artist that I'm a super fan of is on tour for, either a US tour or a world tour for 30 to 90 days. I've saved up for the past year or a couple years in this case, and I'm just going to every show I can.
Yeah.
They're making a lifestyle out of it and doing, giving access to a lot of people that, depending on the artist, whether the show's sold out and they just literally couldn't physically get a ticket to go, or, financially they can't afford to go, or, life circumstances prevents them from going, whatever the case is for someone not to be in person at the venue, they're granting this access to the entire experience, right? From traveling, and whether that's down the road to the venue or across the country or across the world to the venue, to getting prepared, to planning their outfits, to, getting together with their friends, like going to dinner before, grabbing drinks, pre-gaming, like whatever the energy or the vibe is, all the way up to like live streaming their POV during the concert for the entire concert.
Yeah.
And so I think that, I look at that and I go, there's a way here to facilitate a stronger, more direct connection with these experiences and have the artists be in on that, not in like a sleazy, like businessy way, but like be a part of that, because that artist fan relationship is something so elevated from what it typically has been, thanks to like social media and everyone being stuck at home. And so for me, going on the road, that's one portion of it, but meeting with the artists and their team and their creative directors as they're putting a tour together. So like well in advance of a pre-sale, being like a consulting strategic voice in the room for the stuff that takes that time on the road to the next level. Because right now the sense that I got going to that event a couple weeks ago was there are so many logistical things to pay attention to at the moment that like the fun stuff kind of is falling by the wayside a little bit more. It's feeling a little bit more like cold and like structured, like, okay, we have to make sure like every, you know what I mean? Like, touring in bubbles and things like that. Like there are interactive experiences that just don't exist anymore, in person. And, just having that extra layer of cautiousness as they tour whereas in years past, it was like, yeah, we're safe. We're as safe as we possibly can be. But we're still out here like having fun,
Yeah. Like even meet and greets right now are kind of up in the air for a lot of artists. It's like, no.
Yeah. I know meet and greets are up in the air, so, like I know JoJo Siwa did a modified meet and greet where it was, she was on stage and fans were, sitting in like the front row in the venue, which is like still feels like, it's as close as we can get, right? Without like physical interaction. And, but yeah, most of that type of, VIP or premium experience opportunity just like doesn't exist right now.
Yeah.
Or, I know Adele, when she had to cancel, Vegas or postpone Vegas, she was like, well, her and her team were like, well, we'll FaceTime the people who got like the VIP premium tickets.
Yeah.
Would have had like that sort of meet and greet opportunity as modified as it would have been in person. And, it's those, they're little dopamine hits, but I think that having that be a little bit more centralized than like a reactionary experiences for artists and fans is something that, they're so heads down on like, is the show going to happen or not? That there's no one in the room to kind of proactively facilitate like, this is what an experience can be. So that letdown maybe we might not fall as hard when we get the bad news.
Yeah, it's like those extra touches are kind of falling to the wayside to make it like a full experience. And it's mainly right now just all about the show and executing them safely and not having to cancel or postpone, which makes sense. But hey, we're willing to upgrade for these experiences.
Exactly.
Who knows? We might have to do meet and greets in the metaverse at some point. I don't know. Right.
We'll see how that pans out. I think that's on the roadmap for a lot of artists is to have, more of a future of official fan clubs experience, which is also something I'm interested in helping, facilitate for artists that maybe aren't comfortable going on the road just yet.
Yeah, we'll have to do a part 2 and get into all of that.
Yes, I know. Point. We'll have like a super tech nerd geek out episode. Yes. That'll be super fun.
Swearing and geeking out are always welcome on this podcast. So
I was like, I'll say fuck a lot and we'll talk about blockchain. Cool.
Yes, there we go. Nick Carter is really into blockchain and crypto and the Backstreet Boys like sent all of their fans an NFT one day, like not a year ago, but quite a few months ago, and it just like caused mass confusion among the fan group. It was interesting.
Yeah. There's definitely broad consumer adoption that needs to happen. I think before just like everyone who can get one will understand why they're getting one.
Yeah.
So.
Like I said, in this drought that we're in, I was happy to receive it, but
right. Oh, exactly.
I'll take anything at this point. So, okay, a lot of people who listen to this podcast, I mean, we might have some people that work in the music industry in a similar capacity, but I think a lot of them just do marketing in a more general sense, selling products or similarly to you, selling services. But I'd like to know how you think music fans and concert goers are different from customers in another category, just a regular consumer products category, or just anything else out there that's unique to music and concert goers. What's special about the fans?
Oh gosh, I mean, fans really, I look at it a little bit like this. I think that brands have a hard time. I mean, why are we a fanatic of like a popcorn? You know what I mean? Like, why would we be fanatical about popcorn, right? Like, or something that's very utilitarian.
Yes.
I think that what's different between, a customer or a community member around a brand, that's different than a musical fan is that musical people who are fans of music and artists and concert goers, they're a fan because of how they feel, how it makes them feel. It's a really, really like emotionally connected thing. I can't bring myself to be emotionally connected to Orville Redenbacher.
Right.
I mean, I love popcorn. It's like I always have it stocked in my house, but it's not something that I'm willing to fly 4,000 miles to get popcorn.
Yes.
If that makes sense.
It does.
I am willing to travel 4,000 miles to experience a new culture, to stand in a room and have that unadulterated joy moment of like sharing a musical moment with other fans and with the artist. And so I think that concert goers and music fans really are emotionally driven. And it takes a very emotionally intelligent and empathic marketer to market to those people, because it is a demographic and a psychographic that I have come to realize sees through bullshit the fastest. If
Yes.
you are doing a cash grab anything as an artist or an artist team or a label or whatever, they're like, I don't fuck with this. Nope.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like, they're the first to call you out. Where if it's like, hey, we have this new popcorn seasoning. It's like, cool. I know you just want to make money off of, because you just sell things.
Yeah. It doesn't feel as like personal.
Right. And if you were to drill it down, musicians, the only thing that they're selling is connection.
Right.
And so, they're selling, art, which is like it's just a different thing, than like a thing.
Yeah.
Does that make sense? That makes sense.
It does.
Okay.
It absolutely does. And I think for me, like, when I get in like this weird, almost panic mode when I see dates being announced, and I feel like, oh my gosh, I have to see them this time, and I have to.
You get the sweats, yeah.
Yes, absolutely.
The PreSale Sweats. Absolutely. They're real, folks.
Yes, it's a condition, and I think what that really stems from is that there's this like scarcity with your favorite artists. Like, honestly, the Backstreet Boys have been around for almost 30 years. Are they going to keep touring? I mean, Kevin just turned 50. I think they're still, they're still doing things. They're still out there, but it's like, gosh, if I don't see them now, like, it feels finite.
Right.
And that's really scary to me. Like, you have to see them in as many places and as often as possible, where popcorn is going to be around forever. I don't feel like that's ever going to go away.
Right.
And even with something like sports is a little bit different because your favorite players come and go, but your team still exists and you still learn to love, a new group of athletes. But like, your musicians that you love. It feels like there's this timetable that is the elephant in the room a little bit. At least for me.
For sure. I totally agree with that. Just talking about sports and teams, like that's such a legacy community. It's a legacy commitment, right? As a fan. And like you said, like there is a limited supply because it's a human being, right? It's a human or group of humans that you get to experience. And like, how lucky are we to get to live, at the same time as some of these talented, creative human beings, with all of the billions of years of this rock we hurtle through the space on, like we're alive at the same time, right?
Yes.
Even like way existential about it. But it is the PreSale Sweats. You go, I have to see them, and I have to see them as much as I possibly can, because I think the pandemic kind of gave us now two lenses of, holy shit, I have to get tickets.
Yes.
Because one, it's like, we don't know, we've seen now firsthand how something so entirely out of our control can pull the rug out from even that being an option for years. And then, so now we're going, okay, their fandoms are bigger. So there's more fans, there's more people that want it. There's more demand. There's more people who are hungry for it, but I'm the hungriest.
Yeah.
And also, like, if I don't get them, and it's kind of mixed too. Like, I know for Harry's tour, some people had those tickets for 3 years before they used them.
Oh my gosh. Yeah. I have a friend who still has Backstreet tickets that she bought with these two other girlfriends of hers. And both of them have had like 1 or 2 kids, and they were supposed to travel to the show. And they're like a whole new group of people now. And it's like, I don't know if I'll be able to make it this time. Oh my gosh. Well, again, thinking back to, the audience for this podcast, I think a lot of them are just general marketers. What can they take away from this and concert going in general, and how can more just brands and companies deepen their relationship with their audience? Maybe not on the level of, they're going to follow you around on a world tour, but
right. That would take a lot of staffing to follow every customer around.
It would.
Yeah. We're a global market now. Having started in this music and fan and concert and show kind of space, the thing that is really, really powerful about paying attention to this, and I also encourage people to pay attention to like up and coming like street performers that are, I hate the word hustle, but we're going to say it here, that hustle so hard to make an impact and build a fan base and build the attention, right? It's the attention that really is like, you have to get the attention first. So be flashy, but don't be gross or whatever. But then like when people are there, being observant more than you are pushing things at people. Because I think that, 101 is obviously entering a space or promoting an offering, whether that's a thing, a good or a service. When you enter it, you have this vision, you have this idea, you have like your marketing, like strategy and your tone and your voice and who your demographic is. But once you put it out into the world, shut up and listen.
Yeah.
Because who you may have envisioned as being the most impacted may not necessarily be who you thought it was, right? You may have been like, oh, this is a thing that is perfect for, this type of person, this type of lifestyle, this whatever. But once it's out there and you're positioning it in those ways to appeal to those things, if it appeals to someone else in a more powerful way, that's all right. It's okay to reposition what you do and what you offer and what you could provide. And it really comes down to being a human. One of the things in every strategy and implementation I've ever done in marketing is the ratio of how much you're talking about yourself versus relating to the experiences that your audience has outside of the ecosystem of what you offer is, it's very, very weighted on the latter rather than the former. If we have a day of the week, we have 7 days in a week, and you're doing one piece of content per day, 2 at max of those pieces of content should be talking about your product or your company or your service. The rest should be participating in the conversation, the conversations that your customers or your audience is having, right? So if your audience is super into, great example, pop culture, you should be participating in pop culture conversations with them, having a genuine human presence in those spaces, as opposed to always talking about yourself, always talking about who you want to think is, I want this demo or whatever to like think I'm the coolest, and then like ignoring the demo that's like actually showing up is it's a lot of the companies that I've worked with for years usually come to me and become clients of mine because they've stuck so like firmly to, this is who we want to think we're cool, or like that we want to have as customers. I'm like, but they're not your customers. If 90% of your customers are not these people, there's something here to nurture that's showing up, right?
Yeah.
And so that's like kind of my takeaway.
It's a great lesson because a lot of times, I feel like we have to fight to prove that imbalance is how it should be, that it's, 5 days just relating to your audience and conversing with them and engaging, and, on the lower end, actually talking about your products, your services, and right, broadcasting that information out. And when you have superiors that might not get it and they're like, why aren't you promoting this? And they just think everything is about selling and that bottom line. They don't see the value in that nurturing and how that really also correlates with those sales and everything that they're trying to improve. It's like, we have to build the relationship first. Like let us do what we do best.
Yeah, it's so true. I think a lot of times, I've been guilty of it myself too, in executive roles, when you get really, really stuck in the data and the numbers and the bottom line and stuff. But the healthiest bottom line will come from the return on relationship instead of the return on investment.
Ooh.
Yeah.
That's a mic drop moment, I think, Jess.
I was like, oh no, my microphone fell down. Just kidding.
Yeah. The takeaways keep coming.
They keep coming. But that, and it's been proven to me time and time again, when I get so wrapped up in, we have to hit a number, we have to hit a metric, we have to hit, X revenue, and not looking at the health of the experience that potential customers, current customers, new customers are having with your brand and your products, and just being like, we just have to hit a number. Every time that I've stepped back and actually paid attention to what's the experience these people are having when they show up to the party, are there chips there? Are they chips that they were told would be there? Am I saying Doritos and they show up and there's Cheetos and they're like, excuse me, I came for the Doritos. It's cheese, but it's different.
Don't forget the popcorn too.
I know. And the popcorn, Orville's there, but we didn't know Orville was going to be there. We thought this was going to be a more Popcornopolis situation.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's, looking and 9 times out of 10, we're not hitting our numbers and we're not giving them the experience that we promised, advertised that they would have. And so stopping, the obsession with numbers, and really focusing on, when I say, hey, come over, when they get there, they're dancing on the table within the first 10 minutes, right?
Yeah.
They're making that memory with our brand in a way that makes them want to say, oh my gosh, I have to snap all my friends and get them to this party. That's when, like I said, the bottom line gets really, really healthy.
Well said. That is really
Thank
great
you.
to keep in mind. And yeah, I love that analogy about the party. That's great. Okay, so I'd like to wrap up. I want to hear who your dream client is.
Ooh, okay. So I have 3 dream clients. I have lots of
Okay.
dreams. So my current 3 dream clients would be Harry Styles. Hope everyone was sitting down for that one. I would also, Lizzo would also be a phenomenal, her fan base is insanely amazing.
The lesbians, right?
The lesbians, I love them. And then Rosalia is also one. I don't know if anyone, like, she is on a rocket ship and she's incredible. If you have not heard her music, it's phenomenal.
I haven't.
Yes. So Rosalia, Harry Styles, and Lizzo would be my 3 dream clients.
Solid choices. I know the next time we check in, maybe when we do our part 2, that they're going to be your clients. I'm putting that out there.
I appreciate this energy. I mean, come on. I've compelled you. You're propelling me. It's like, I love it.
I firmly believe that you could DM your way anywhere. So we'll figure out.
This is true. I am notorious for the somehow effective DM slide.
Yeah.
I am not a spray and prayer, if you will. I am very, I don't subscribe to the volume is the key to unlocking success. I think that intentional interactions, whether it's cold or, over time warmed, is the stronger and more powerful way to go. So I'm just like, if I'm in your DMs, you're special, babe.
Yeah. And it's going to be a mutually beneficial relationship here. Let's figure this out.
We are going to do good things, be good people, and do good by the people we meet along the way. Guiding values of Roadie Social.
Well, I'm so glad I slid into your DMs and that you were willing to hop on here and tell the world kind of the debut about Roadie Social. Is there anything else you'd like to share with us?
I mean, no, I would just love any, roadiesocial.com if you want to learn more about the sort of top level / specifics of, what we do, and follow on social at Roadie Social on Instagram and Twitter.
Yeah. And you're already hosting some really fun conversations on social, just things that are making us reminisce and just get super excited to head back out on the road.
Can I tell you, it has been the most soul-filling experience to put those prompts out.
Yeah.
Like, I have gotten emotional. I collect them all. But I have gotten emotional at how connected such simple reminiscing has like resulted in. I mean, it's just like, it's wild to me, and I love it. And I hold it with such honor that people are reliving those experiences when I put them out on Twitter. It's like, it's something that I do not take for granted at all.
Yes, absolutely. Well, thank you, Jess. So happy you joined me today. I am so excited to see what you do next. And if your touring brings you to South Florida, let me know. I will hang out in the pit with you wherever you end up.
100%. We will dance our faces off in the pit of some show together.
Sounds good. Thanks, Jess.
Thanks.
If you're a fan of this podcast, be sure to subscribe, or better yet, leave a review. You can also join my Twitter chat at #PopChat for weekly pop culture discussions you can actually learn from. If you have an idea for an episode, shoot me a DM at Brianne2K. As always, thanks for listening.